I watched last Saturday night that video I mentioned to you on the phone. It's almost sort of black and white. I don't know. Anyway, you were 10 years of age, not particularly tall.
No.
But what I noticed was very erect, superb posture, good marching, a great way of holding the bagpipe and everything. So who installed that into you?
That was installed from the start. That was installed definitely from the start. I remember getting bawled at for standing like a slob and things like that when I was playing. Back then you were shouted and there's a few choice words here and then you wouldn't get away with that nowadays. But it certainly didn't do me or any of the other guys any harm, because we all ended up with good posture. We all ended up with good carriage of the instrument.
You must have paid a lot of attention to the length of the glow stick, for instance, and size of the bag.
Absolutely.
And various things like that are crucial to good posture.
Which in turn is crucial to having good technique,
because being able to handle it, the back control, the blowing control of the instrument.
Something I find from a personal point of view, teaching steady blowing quite a difficult thing to do, because you can explain to somebody.
Right.
You have to be listening for this. You have to be doing this. You can tell somebody the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it has got to do with the feel for the instrument as well. You've got to have a feel for what's going on and things like that as well. It's very, very use your ears, absolutely. It's very difficult. It's a difficult thing to teach. And if I think back to when I was being taught myself how to blow steady, it was the tuition on it wasn't that in depth.
So,
and everything else was really in depth. We've talked about
that you acquired personally.
You were just bawled at, and you were told to blow.
I know.
But I think there was some of what was done definitely helped. Things like way back at the start, because I think the key to steady blowing starts from way back at lesson 1 on the pipes.
Yeah.
And I remember, again, sketchy, but I remember being not forced but taught or told to practice going up and down the scale, right? But this is the way I try to approach it with any of my students who are just going on the pipes, is trying to do it so that it's very controlled. So, maybe 2-3 breaths on one note to change on a blow to the next to begin with, right? So that they're doing it in a very controlled fashion. And I remember being taught that as a kid. And then once you had mastered the scale, you then went on to the G grace note scale and the D grace note scale and the E grace note scale and all the doubling scales and the throws and Ds and the turloos and all this stuff. So all the technique that we'd spent, say, 6 months learning or whatever it was,
are we back at the beginning?
Was then put onto the pipes in the same fashion. You went through that same process on the pipes. But I think again what happened as a result of that was obviously doing it on the practice channel. You gained great control over your technique and your finger dexterity, your finger control. But what happened was you then were taking that you had on the practice channel and then trying to mimic it on the pipes. Now, as we know, there's a big difference between playing your practice channel and playing your pipes, and it's the physical strain of playing the instrument that comes into play. Obviously, there's suddenly you've got one plate spinning, and then all of a sudden you've got half a dozen, right?
Because 2 or 3 things going on all at the same time.
So the coordination then becomes an issue. So I think that whole process of going through the exercises again, but doing it on pipes, was part of the coordination training, if you like. That doesn't really answer how you turn out to be a steady blower, but I think it's part and parcel of it, is if you don't have to think about making sure you're getting your technique in, then you can concentrate more of your efforts on the bag and the arm.
We try to say to guys, just play the tune on the day, because there's nothing's going to change.
No, that's right.
And concentrate and blowing your instrument, listen to your instrument.
I would say nowadays there's a couple of, well, not even so much nowadays, because a manometer's not a new thing, but you can get blowing gauges now that just give you a visual representation, and I do try to use them as well, because then what you're doing is you're trying to teach the feel. You're trying to teach the use of the ears, but you've also got this visual indicator.
It's almost like sine waves.
No, it's just like a pressure gauge. So it's just an analog pressure gauge.
Aye.
And there's a few places out there that sell them. And what it does is there's two ways to do it. You can either measure the pressure as it's coming out the bag, so put a cork in one of the drones, which is connected with a tube to this gauge, and the gauge is kind of moving about, corresponding to what's going on inside the bag. Or you can measure it as it's going into the bag, which means you don't lose a drone, you know. And they're actually really good. I would say for beginning to try to make somebody understand, because they can actually see what's happening, because this thing's dancing about.
So I think this is valuable for the listeners, because they hear stories about famous pipers and we'll go into competitions, but for the guys just want to play a bagpipe and kind of get steady, all these tips are maybe very valuable, you know.
I would say so, yeah.
It's worth going